All right, check it. Look, I know I look tired. Your boy worked hard. Let me get some rest after this. But this is me transitioning from my energy in the flow state of working hard. This is my energy in the flow state of working smart. But let's continue on with the last video, the past video. Matter of fact, this is coming from inspiration of a creator that I seen today. Matter of fact, it was beautiful, beautiful message that was spoken and actually reverberated. But let's go back to previous message where it was basically recovering the 7 universal laws. So I'm gonna cover in depth, and I know this is out of order, but today it just seemed appropriate to cover law number 2, which is the law of correspondence. And to me, the best way of covering law of correspondence, give me 1 second. All right, just checking, making sure it's still recording. My bad if you got vertigo or motion sickness. The best way to cover the law of correspondence, like I said, I mess with the chakras. But when I study, and like I said, when I was watching this creator today, she was amazing. Like alchemical, masterful teacher. All right. So like I said, I study chakras. All right. And so a lot of what I learned and a lot of what people learn are misconceived or not misconceived. I don't even know if that's a word. Misperceived or conceived to me inappropriately or improperly. And that's only because I took the time to want to understand it. So, like I said, I do chakras, and so I'm gonna combine them with like the zodiacal Libra scale, the balance. You know, you balance them or you're aligning them, pretty much. You got your lower, you got your higher. Everybody know that. Everybody talk, especially in this community. Everybody talk demonic and angelic, or the demons and the angels, of course. People who aren't of this community don't really understand vibrations and frequency and how it resonates. So we're gonna get into this because I really like what the creator was talking about as well, because I'm gonna show you here from AI. I suffer from analysis paralysis, and she referenced that. And it did lay everything out so much smoother, faster, but it was based on everything that I'm talking about, and it's perfect. So law of correspondence, as above, so below, pretty much. And so this is when you talk to, I'm gonna call them like normal people, like normal, everyday people. I'm just normies. We're gonna call them normies. All right, shout out to Coach Greg. We're gonna call them normies. All right. When they hear angels and demons, they're actually envisioning like angels and envisioning demons. Okay, they're not looking at like frequency or the vibratory rate of like colors. Colors have a vibratory rate and a frequency, and so they're not looking at the chakras, how much material, earth material, is needed for that color to be a lower vibratory frequency color, and so it would have to be denser. And so it will vibrate or rotate or spin or however it moves to you, if it's a disc or whatever, slower. So that's a lesser key. And so now we talking alchemical. Now we talking alchemical formula. So Solomon had 2 keys. He had a greater key, which is the angelic key. He had a lesser key, which is the demonic or infernal hierarchy. And they both have hierarchies, as above, so below. There's 7 levels of heavens and 7 levels of hell. All right, so let's get into this though. Hey, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all for coming on this journey with me. So, matter of fact, we gonna come here. I say, we gonna cover this though. Y'all ain't gonna keep seeing my name. I say, can you please identify the 7 heavenly celestial archetypes, entities, and 7 infernal celestial archetypes and entities, and can you also correlate them to the law of correspondence? It says, this is a fascinating direction. You're essentially asking for a dual 7-fold cosmology: 1 heavenly celestial luminous ascending, 1 infernal chthonic descending. I love that word, chthonic, shadow oriented, and then to show how both mirror each other through the hermetic principle of correspondence. Because different traditions name these forces differently, I'll give you a clean archetypal model that synthesizes Hermeticism, Gnosticism, astrology, esoteric cosmology, without locking it to any single religion, What you get is a balanced mirrored system, a heaven above and an abyss below, each with 7 intelligences or forces. So here are the 7 heavenly celestial archetypes. And it's pretty much the same, but it's going to go in regards to if one is vibrating in a high state, if one has balanced their heart chakra energies, and now they're able to access that, the throat, the mind, the crown, you know what I mean? So the solar logo, sun, illumination, unity, divine mind. This is if everything is in right, positive unison. The lunar Sophia, you get that though? You know, if you guys are familiar with the Nag Hammadi libraries, solar logos, that's the divine masculine. Lunar Pistis Sophia, Sophia is the divine feminine. So you got here solar logos, lunar Sophia, the moon, reflection, intuition, subtle mysteries is when she positive. The sun positive, illumination, unity, divine mind. Next you got Mercurial messenger, that's my homie. Mercury, knowledge, communication, pattern recognition. The Venusian harmonizer, Venus, beauty, attraction, cohesion, and love. The martial guardian, Mars, courage, will, and righteous force. The Jovian king, Jupiter, expansion, law, benevolence, wisdom. The Saturnian architect, Saturn, the father, structure, time, boundaries, mastery. These are not angels in a religious sense. They're cosmic intelligences, the luminous side of the planetary powers. The 7 infernal celestial archetypes, these are not evil. They are the shadow expressions of the same planetary forces. And that's also a law, which we're going to touch basis on. That's also a law. They are the shadow expressions of the same planetary forces. They represent entropy, distortion, imbalance, ego, and the forces that bind consciousness. And the same representations of imbalance are the solar tyrant. The sun, he comes in as ego, inflation, domination, false identity. The lunar phantom comes in moon. She comes in illusion, emotional chaos, deception. The mercurial trickster, Mercury, he comes in, she comes in manipulation, confusion, misdirection. The Venusian siren, negatively, the siren comes in addiction, vanity, unhealthy attachment. The martial destroyer, violence, rage, conflict without purpose. The Jovian overlord, excess dogma, blind authority. The Saturnian warden, fear, stagnation, oppression, limitation. These correspond to what Gnostics call archons, what Kabbalists call qliphothic or kalipatic shells, what Hermeticists call the shadow of the planetary spheres, How the law of correspondence connects them. As above, so below, as below, so above. The solar logos, divine illumination, corresponds to egoic domination, the solar tyrant, and etc., etc. The deeper meaning, heavenly forces show the highest expression of a cosmic law. Infernal forces show the lowest expression of the same law. Human consciousness sits in the middle and can move up or down the spectrum. In other words, the heavens show what a force looks like when it is aligned with order. The infernal realms show what the same force looks like when it is distorted. The human realm is where the choice between the two is made. This is the essence of Hermetic correspondence. Again, that's deep. The heavens show what a force looks like when it is aligned with order. The infernal show what the same force looks like when it is distorted. The human realm is where the choice between the two is made. A unified 7-fold correspondence map. Mentalism. Remember, rule number 1 is all is the mind, the universe is mental. Mentalism, solar logos, heavenly, solar tyrant, infernal, correspondence, and etc., etc. Go through the list if you choose to. If you want to pause it at some later point in the video, go through it. And so it's asking if he wants me to create a diagram or whatnot. Stop looking at the name. All right, so Then this is an important one right here. No. 1 second. We gonna scroll through. Hold on. Because I did my own personalized one. And so I'm gonna give it a depth, like a kind of, so it said it wants to do a personal mapping. Nah. We're gonna stick to importance. All right, check this out. Aside from that. So I ask it, I say, can you explain, is there ever a time where balancing both energies of angelic and infernal are necessary, and do they work together? A profound question. You're asking it at exactly the level where Hermetic philosophy becomes operative rather than merely theoretical. Let's go straight to the heart of it. All right. So it says, do the heavenly and infernal forces ever need to be balanced? Yes, but not in the way people often imagine. You're not meant to serve both sides. You're meant to integrate both sides. In Hermeticism, the heavenly and infernal archetypes are not good versus evil. They are two poles of the same cosmic force. The constructive and destructive, the ordered and chaotic, the luminous and shadowed. All right, we're going to go past that because that can get into a touchy subject as to why they exist in the first place. That's for later. That's actually huge. Every planet, actually, let's go through it. Why both energies exist in the first place. Every planetary force has a heavenly expression, aligned, harmonious, generative, an infernal expression, distorted, excessive, imbalanced. You can't eliminate the infernal pole. It's built into the structure of reality, but you can transmute it. So why I said it gets a little fuzzy. Matter of fact, we're going to touch on it then, since we read this a little bit. We're going to touch on it. And so when balancing both energies become necessary, I'm actually going to show you, we're going to get into why it does. So we're going to do, well, I love this actually. That's pretty deep. When you're doing deep inner alchemy and Hermetic inner work, you must confront the infernal pole of each planetary force. Why? Because the heavenly pole cannot fully activate until the infernal pole is seen, understood, and integrated. This is the meaning of as above, so below. As within, so without. The below is the infernal, the above is the heavenly. The within is your psyche, the without is your life. They are all mirrors. Do they work together? Yes, but only when you are the mediator. So if you think of it like this, heavenly is order, infernal is energy, human consciousness is the direction. Order without energy is stagnation. Energy without order is chaos. That's huge, how you combine them both. Order without energy is stagnation. Energy without order is chaos. Together, under conscious direction, they become creation. That's huge. And so, matter of fact, let's get here real quick. Let's get here, because that touches bases on this question here. So hold on. So this right here, one final question for the day. I've read somewhere that Solomon had keys, both lesser and greater, pertaining to both the angelic and infernal hierarchies. Are the archetypes associated energies, both positive and negative, of the most highest one above all? All right, so this is a beautiful place to end today, because you're touching the deepest layer of Hermetic, Kabbalistic, and Solomonic thought, the unity behind duality. Let's walk through this with clarity and depth. All right, so here we go. Keys of Solomon and the two hierarchies. The greater key is angelic, celestial, divine order. Lesser key is infernal, chthonic, rebellious forces. Here's the part most people miss. The oldest esoteric interpretations, both hierarchies ultimately originate from the one source. They differ. They must. If it's the one source, right? They must. Everything in creation must. They differ not in origin, but in orientation. The heavenly forces align with the divine will. The infernal forces resist or distort it, but both exist within the one's emanated cosmos. This is why Solomon is depicted as having authority over both, not because he was dual aligned, but because he understood the unity behind the polarity. Are the heavenly and infernal archetypes both expressions of the Most High? In Hermetic philosophy, Kabbalah, and even the deeper layers of Solomonic, the answer is yes. They are both emanations of the one, but on different levels of alignment, such as vibration and frequency. The heavenly archetypes are the ordered, harmonious, constructive expressions of the one. The infernal archetypes are the distorted, fragmented, or inverted expressions of the same forces. They are not separate creations. They are polarities of the same emanations. As above, so below. This one that you must see. This one that you must see. It's Solomonic. It says this right here. Hold on. Hold on, hold on. Hold on. Why Solomon could command both? Because Solomon understood the secret. You cannot command a force unless you understand its nature, its polarity, and its origin in the one. Solomon's authority came from alignment with the divine, mastery of the heavenly forces, understanding of the infernal forces, recognition that both ultimately serve the one structure. This is why the Solomonic does not worship demons. He binds them by invoking the higher order they ultimately come from. We're going to end it there. And that's huge. Peace.